All right. Welcome to the Grow Little Wildflower podcast. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm even more excited because today I am chatting with someone who is not only wildly talented and passionate about names, but just a true light in the baby naming world. Steph, aka at Names with Steph. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm
I'm
so
so
excited to
happy to
have
be
you
here.
here. Steph is a fellow name consultant living in Minnesota with her husband and is a proud mama of three beautiful little ones. She has a deep love for whimsy, the meaning behind names, and just the magic behind every single name. Steph is also an author of not one, but two incredible books and a strong voice in the space that just reminds us that names don't have a gender and names don't have an age. And we love her for it. So I'm super excited. Steph's built a community across TikTok and Instagram. I don't know how you do it all, but she does. And she is just creative and kind and authentic, and she shines in everything that she does. So welcome, Steph. I know you've been through a year. Not only is Steph just an incredible namer, but she's also been through a really tough season with a breast cancer diagnosis and done so with so much strength and grace, and we love her. So I'm so excited to chat names with you today.
Yay, I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know your kids' names, but everyone listening might not. So
Yeah.
if you want to share with us your kids' names to start with, and then we can dive in.
Okay, so I have three kiddos, and my oldest is named Ewan. My middle kiddo is Fitz, and my daughter is Oriana. And kind of the way we came up with our kiddos' names is my husband's from Scotland, and we kind of wanted to incorporate the Scottish vibe. So with our firstborn, Ewan is a very Scottish name, but it means born of the yew tree. And then our second, we that was really stressful, I will say, because I don't know about you naming two boys in a row. Like I felt the pressure. Like I don't know if I can find one. Like that one had special meaning because it kind of represented Ian's name and then my dad's name and his dad's name, which is John. And so
Yeah,
they were all very connected. And so I thought, well, I don't know how I'm going to come up with another boy name that I love. And then Fitz actually means son of, and so they have my maiden name in the middle spot. Both my boys have my maiden name, and
I didn't
yeah,
know
it's really
that.
yeah. So
That's so
it's a very
cool.
interesting, yeah. And so then he's son of my name and then my husband's last name. So
You nailed it.
it worked out. I worked out. So and
I think
then
we're kind of like with
yeah,
our first, we pick our favorite name, right? Because it's our
yeah.
first. And it's yeah, and then it's like the second one, like, gosh, now I've got to match it. I've got to match that level of favorite.
You want to have the same connection that you did with the first one, and then you feel like you have to force it, and then you get people who are like trying to name their fourth boy or their fourth girl, and I'm like, I have so much compassion for that because it is hard
100%.
to fall in love that many times. But
Yeah,
you
and
can
you
do it.
did it. You did
Yeah,
really well.
yeah.
Ewan and Fitz. Okay, and then you had a girl.
Yes, and then I had my baby girl, and that was we actually went team green, so we didn't know we were having a boy or girl, so I had to have names for both. And so my original girl name was Isla, and I will always have.
Wait, did I know that? I don't
I
think
don't
I
know.
did.
I feel like I talk about it all the
I
time.
swear you probably do, but this is the
But
thing. You got to share more. Share it all the time.
I love the name Isla, so that's what if my boys had been a girl, either one of them, we would have gone with Isla. And then as the years went by, I kept meeting more little Islas. Everywhere I went, there was an Isla. And I was like, okay, it's so
Like not that
beautiful.
I felt like not that long ago, either was a name that just was so unique.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was.
now it's
It's
so
blown up.
loved.
It's everywhere. And I'm like, but wait, it's a Scottish name, also a Spanish name, but it's a Scottish name. I'm like, I want to use it, but whatever. Everyone, it's a gorgeous name. I love meeting little Islas and it's fantastic. But by the time I had my third, I was definitely not going to choose it just because it was too popular for someone who really was looking for uncommon names.
Mm.
So yeah, so then we had a short list. I think for boys, for our third, we were going to go with Quill, which now I look at, yeah, but I don't think I realized enough. Here's my number one tip about like say it out loud because Quill Cofield, that's almost too muddy. Like I don't know that I'd recommend that now. And then,
Mm.
it was like Quill I loved, but then Quill
Quill on its
Cofield.
own. Yeah. And it is the first, a lot of people worry about the first and middle flow, but
Right.
I always say, like, really, it's the first and
Yes, it
surname the
really is.
most, because how often do we know? Like, do you know my middle name? I've shared it, but you probably don't. Do
It's
you
your
remember?
sister's name,
It is.
but I can't remember it.
Like, it's not, my first and last, but like my middle,
Yeah,
maybe not. Maybe you forget. Maybe you remember.
but you
But
want to
most, we don't know it.
know the flow of the first and last is really important too. So yeah,
Right. I agree.
I didn't know that at the time. Like I hadn't really processed that. So and then the other ones we had were Mac because I needed a four-letter boy name. Yeah, I had two
My
four-letter
maiden
boys.
name's McBride, so I'm like, I could have totally gone with Mac, but then what happened was Mac Casey. It feels like the same thing. It kind of merges. Mac Casey.
Mac
I don't know.
Casey. Yep. It's too much of the k
It,
sound
it
in my
merges.
mouth.
It's picker. So I was like, damn. But anyway, I love that
Yeah.
name.
When you have two baby namers, we're like, nope, that won't work. Nope.
We
Yeah.
overanalyze it.
Yes, exactly. Most people
I'm
be like,
glad I'm not
oh.
naming a baby now.
That would have been cute though. Yeah.
I
So
know.
yeah, I liked Mac, but it also means son of.
It
So
does,
then they
yeah.
would have had two boys with an, and then so our third one we had Vaughn spelled Vonn.
Oh, nice. Do you know
Vaughn
what?
Cofield.
I'm pretty sure a previous episode at the start we would
Yeah,
share just a random name, and I'm pretty sure one was on there. That's really cool.
you
But
like
spelled
that one? Yeah.
VON. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so those were our three boy names, and then our girls list, I really liked Fallon and Saffron and
Yeah.
Story, and Ian never would. My husband is very, I always like to say he lacks whimsy because he really does. Like he would have
Those
like
names are like totally you, totally whimsy.
yes, he just would not have been on board. So we had to meet in the middle, and
Yeah.
so he came up with Ori though. It's from a video game actually, which is weird. It's like Ori in the Dark Forest or something. People will know it. It's a relatively well-known video game. He loved or the Blind Forest, Ori in the Blind Forest. So he brought it to me. He said, "What do you think of Ori as a nickname?" And I said, "That's great, but we need a longer version."
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, "What about?" So I looked at Orianne, Orianthe, Ori Bella, Orietta, and we ultimately went with Oriana. And this is another issue that we had with the pronunciation because we did not say the names out
And
loud.
you've done a skit on this, and I love it.
Yeah. My mom loves that one too. Oh my gosh, she's so cracking up.
Love it.
Like,
I love it.
we made such a mistake. Learn from my mistakes, people, because we had so our short lists were we had two lists, right? We didn't know what we were having. And so there was a lot of names, and I hadn't ever heard him say the name out loud until our baby was born. And then
Okay, and so Oriana is how
yeah,
you say it, and
yeah,
that was in your head all
yep.
along, and that is the name. What did he say?
He says Oriana. And I'm
Oriana?
like, which is weird because because as a Scotsman, like he doesn't have like the Minnesota, like we say, some people would say Oriana, like we're
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah, yeah.
lateral in the
It, feel,
Midwest.
it feels American, like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but he doesn't have it as fully, it's not as terrible as like if it was a super Midwesty sound, but he does have that like Oriana. And I'm like, what did you say? What was that?
It
Like
was
I
straight after she was born, like you were like, oh, her name's Ariana, and then he just kind of randomly said it, or do you remember the moment that you were like, oh,
I I think we were home. I don't like I almost
but
think
he would have heard you saying it, and then he's just come out with this natural flow of how he said it.
and he can't really hear the difference. He doesn't hear it. And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
Oriana, right? Like Anna or Anna. And he's saying Oriana. And I'm saying Oriana.
Wait,
And
does he
she
say
has
Ariana now?
what?
Does he say
No,
Ariana now, or
no.
he still says Ariana?
No, he can't do it. He's like, that's how I say the name. And I'm like, get
She's so hilarious. I think I've shared this with you when one of the names that my husband came to me with was Ariel. right?
Ariel. Oh,
Which is so
yes.
similar to what we
Yeah,
chose. It's
it
our
is.
style. And I love that he came to me with that because he didn't come to me with a lot of names. And I was like, I actually
Yeah.
really like it anyway. And then, like, what would happen is as we would kind of talk about the name, he would say it differently. And he was like,
Every time.
Ariel. And I was like, whoa, you can't even say it the same. Like, at least be consistent. So I just had to scrap it because I was like, you're not saying it the same every time. And he didn't get it either. He was like,
That would drive me crazy if someone was interchanging
he
it.
was
Like,
interchanging. And I couldn't, so I was scrapped, but we went with something so close.
but easy to say. Wait, like it's very intuitive, which I like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
beautiful. Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh, I love that.
it's a bummer.
I love a couple of things. I love that you you went with this name after obviously going through like a list of names that you loved. But then not only that, like, you chose a name that has ultimately you chose the name that you just love, and then after the fact you realize that maybe it didn't quite work with the both pronunciations, but that's life. That's what happens sometimes. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
sometimes that happens.
And it's like it's not something I regret. I do like I love so many of other names still, obviously, too. Like it's our job, but I really truly love names like Orla. Sometimes I get like this like crush on the name Orla and I'm like it's the perfect blend of but my daughter is such an Ori and the good thing is that we both use Ori like 50% of the time or more. So it's not so I don't have to hear him say it that often because we both call him
Yeah.
Ori.
Yeah, that's
I think
cool.
I'd be more upset. I'd have a little bit more name regret if it was something that he said all the time. But she says it my way, so I feel like it's all
It's
good.
your way. Your way wins.
My way wins.
So,
He's been raised by me like that.
so so did you feel like you guys had, like, you were pretty in sync with your naming? Like, it wasn't too
No,
much of a struggle to kind of come together?
I felt it was difficult. Um, but I also feel like I was a very different namer when with my first. Like I had names like Logan and Scott on my first list and Gavin. And then by the end, I wouldn't have considered those by my third. And so my kids, my oldest two are 5-ish years apart. But there was a big journey for me. And so I think my husband and I were more aligned with Ewan. He was like, yeah, that's great. I was like, oh, it's different for me. For him, it felt classic. So we were able to meet in the middle.
Yes.
Because in the UK, that's classic. And then for Fitz, he found that name again. Very shocking because he also didn't bring me a lot of names. It was mostly me saying, "What about this? What
At
about
least
this?"
they came through with a couple of good ones.
He got the ringers in there. He just got the good ones. Yeah.
He did it.
So he came in with Fitz, and I was like absolutely in love with it. And our little Fitz is such a Fitzy, and it's
It's
perfect.
such a cool name. Like,
It's
it
such a
is
cool name.
cool.
I just
I
love it.
imagine he's the middle child. I imagine he is a cool kid.
Yeah.
He's probably a little cheeky. I
A little
feel like,
quirky and a little
yeah,
cheeky, but yes, but like there, there's a middle kid thing, yes. And then yeah, with Ori. So I feel like by the time we had our third, I really wanted to lean even more into the unique and whimsical, and
yeah,
he hadn't grown in names at all.
yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting because I watched something yesterday about all the seasons that we go through and how no child, and I hope I say this right, and I'll have to
Mm,
link where I heard this if I
mhm.
can find it. But basically, no child has the same parent, and no
Yes,
child goes through the same season or grows up the same, right? Even though they're siblings,
it's so
even though
interesting.
they've got the same parent, but because we're in different seasons in our life and we're in different ages and we've gone through different experiences, every time it relates back to naming because, like you said,
Yeah,
back when you were naming your first son, you had all these life experiences in between and all these things happen. And then by your
yes.
third, you were at like a completely different stage. And I felt the same. Like, for my first, I was pretty Taj was always on the list, but then for the girl name, we actually loved Chelsea. That was
Oh,
that was
really?
it.
That's so
Chelsea
cute.
Michelle was the name. If we had walked out of
Oh,
there with a girl, that was the name. And I feel like that's
wow.
such a just such a classic name. But
Yeah.
like, now I wouldn't, by the time it came to Kai and Aria 5 years later, or 3 and 5 years later, 8 years, I wasn't Chelsea was off the list.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
just think that we grow
Totally.
and evolve, and that's okay too, because sometimes we can feel stuck in what our naming style was,
Absolutely.
and we actually it's okay to evolve and
You can be
change.
a different person, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to be a different kid or parent to your first child than your third, and all of it. I totally agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
and I
that.
think that's the cool thing with names, and sometimes we're not stuck and we can actually pick whatever the name we're feeling into at the
Yes.
time.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask as well, was so basically you have two books, right?
Yes.
So you have written two books and you talk a lot about names being ageless and genderless. And I just really wanted to lean into that and just know what that means to you, because I feel like, nowadays there is a big trend in names, um, boy names for girls, girl names for boys,
Right.
and they cross over really beautifully at the
Yep.
moment. And whenever I share a gender neutral name list, people it always blows up. Everyone loves
Mm.
the name. So I feel like there's just this little turn in this trend of genderless names. So what does it mean to you? Like,
Yeah, I feel like it's a the world is going in a good way, in a good direction in that way, because we're getting less stuck in the binary of like girls do this and boys do
mm,
this. Like
mm,
boys can't wear makeup and girls don't play football and whatever it is. Like we're definitely, we can see it in names because some people identify as gender fluid or non-binary. And so it's really beautiful to see the name River. You really don't know if they identify as a girl or a
it's
boy.
so funny because I had River as like one of my favorite names for my boys, and my
Really?
husband would never go for it. He just kept saying no. Like,
No,
to
yeah.
him it wasn't a name. This is
That
14
was
years
years
ago.
ago now. Yep.
Yeah, now it's
Yep.
very loved.
Now it's
But
everywhere.
the interesting thing is we loved it for a boy. And fast forward 5 or 6 years later, his brother had a little girl called River.
Are you
He didn't
serious?
know that was a name on our list. Yeah.
Oh, that is
So
funny.
yes. So now we've got a
That's
niece. So it
amazing.
was always her name, but we loved it
Yeah,
for a boy. That's the perfect example. You didn't even know that story.
that's so great. We're just so connected.
That's how it's like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, so I get a lot of like comments, especially about these are old lady names, right? And I do think we can classify things. Like sometimes I'll even do a gender neutral list for girls or gender neutral names for boys. Like I think names
yes.
still can lean. You can do whatever you want, though. The whole point is that you aren't stuck in the binary. You aren't stuck in this specific thing or this list. You can consider all the names that you love. And I think that's what people need to know is that you don't need to say, oh, I can't consider that because it doesn't really fit with a girl name. Doesn't matter. Or an
Yeah.
age. If you like your grandma's name and it's Ethel or Eunice, that's okay. Those are beautiful names. And eventually those will come around and they'll be the young, it's like
And,
cyclical.
those names had a story. And, when you
Mm,
pull from, especially like pulling from your family tree, like you're pulling an entire story and you're bringing it
yeah,
back to light again. And I think that is so
that's
special.
beautiful.
The vintage names are so loved. And that's why I love your book, Names Don't Have an Age, because
Mhm.
I actually think like, they just do this full circle moment. And now we're leaning into names that really were, that 100-year rule that we all know
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Um, and people are, not that long ago, they weren't leaning into them as much. Now, if you like meet a little Nancy, that's like the cutest thing in the world.
yeah,
That's my nana's
right.
name.
Right. Aw, that's sweet. That's sweet.
So
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
true. It's so true. I love the openness of names now, and I think that's part of what draws me to it is that you can be as creative as you want, and you can think outside the box, and you can go with your whimsy. Follow
yeah,
your heart. You know.
and it's your kid's name.
Yes.
Like, yes,
Yes.
there's gonna be, what? There's an opinion on the name if you pick the most popular, and there's
Yes.
opinion on the name if you pick the least popular, no matter what. So I always try and say to parents, like, lean into the name that you just love, because that's the name you're going to be saying forever.
Yep.
So It's not what your mother-in-law is going to be saying, or worrying
Exactly.
about that. So yeah, I think I love that you've focused on those two things for your books,
Mm,
and I'm
thank
sure
you.
I'm sure they're very loved.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask as well, do you believe that a child will grow into their name and that a name will like shape the child? Like it's part for
Yeah.
me, I feel like their name is part of their identity. So
Yeah.
do you feel like it kind of like grows with them? Because a lot of people will say, that's a baby name, or that's an old person's name, or
Yes.
whatever. And I'm like, every old person was once a baby. Like that.
Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think they inform each other. Like sometimes I think, oh, you're such a Stephanie, right? If people are like I feel like part of it is my name means crowned one, and I like to be a princess and be an ultra feminine, girly kind of girl. So
I just had
I
to
get
throw back to your photo shoot just in that moment.
yes, yeah, it's my 40th birthday. Yeah,
The
yeah,
pictures just came to my head.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the names grow with us. I think they inform us, but I also think like I don't really care for people when they say like I don't care for this phrase of like, oh, I want a name that can be a president someday. Every name can be president. Every single name can be CEO. Every single kid can be a doctor. Like I don't think
It
what
doesn't define who they can be.
correct.
A name doesn't
You
define who they can be.
right. There's so much more you're going to pour into them. This name is a gift, and we want to give the best gift. And the more you love it, like you said, you encourage parents to go with what they love. I also do that because the more you love the name, the more your child feels that and sees that, and then they get that love as well. So if
Mm,
you name them something you don't really care for, that's going to be reflected. They're going to feel that. But if it's
mm,
a really uncommon name and you embrace it bold and they see you, if someone's like, oh, your kid's name is that, and they see you, yeah, we love it. Thank you. Like we don't care what anyone thinks. Your
yeah,
child
I
will
think
do that.
like having that confidence is really
Mhm.
where it comes back to. So if you love the name, you're going to be confident and proud to say that name, no matter
Correct.
what. I
Correct.
remember with our first, I was the what we wanted, and this is so weird because my husband's not that much of a like River was too much out there for him. But we were
Yeah.
still looking for a name that would actually turn heads and that potentially he was the only one in his school and that would make people think and be like,
Oh,
that's different. And so we actually did pretty well with that because
you
Taj
did.
is his name
Yeah,
and it's
you
still
did.
pretty unique in the big scheme of names. Um,
Absolutely.
and we did that on purpose. We wanted him to stand out. I
Love
wanted
it.
him to be known and like if someone heard his name, they wouldn't forget him because his name isn't just the same as everyone else's. So it's interesting because from some people who will
Yeah.
will not want that and then others
Right.
will just crave that,
Does
you
he
know.
have another one in his class, or has he been the only Taj?
He has, so in his whole entire primary, he was the only Taj. Now at school, there is one more Taj. Well, he's in high school, which
Oh,
is so
okay.
cool, and he actually like knows him. So yeah,
Cool.
there's only one other,
Yeah.
and now in the primary, Kai just told me yesterday there's actually another Taj who's in like grade
Okay.
4 or something. So
Yeah.
there's not many, but yeah,
Not
it's
many.
not an uncommon name because there's a surfer in Australia called Taj, and so
Oh,
we
cool.
that's how we came up with the name.
Sure.
So for us, it's not that uncommon, but in the scheme of names, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty. I've never met one here, so
Really?
yeah. No.
Oh,
No.
yeah. Our top 100 names for Australia came out yesterday, and it's
Oh, I
very
gotta look at them.
exciting.
I gotta look at them. That's so
You need to look at
exciting.
that. It's so exciting. We don't get a full 1,000 names like you guys,
I
but the
know.
top
No.
100 is very cool. And
So cool.
Taj is not in it, which we would assume, but Kai is number 20 and Aria is
Oh.
number 30. So yeah,
Oh, okay. All right. All right. That's
your kids'
awesome.
names are not in it either.
Oh, they aren't? Okay. Okay. Not surprised.
Yeah, yeah. So, now I wanted to ask, and this is a little personal because it's to do with the journey that you've walked in the last couple of months, or the last year, really. Um, and it's to do with your experience with breast cancer. And you have, this is part of you now. This is part of your
Mhm.
story.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
as we know, when a big life event happens or experience happens, it changes so much. And I wanted to know if that's changed your perspective in the way of life, names, business, creativity.
Mm,
Like, how
absolutely.
has that changed you? And we'll want to know how you're going. So I'd
Oh, that's so
love
sweet.
you to
Yeah.
share.
So I've started some new drugs to like kind of combat any possible traces of cancer that have gone to other places in my body. So I'm on these for like 3 to 5 years, which feels really daunting. But it's been very interesting to be like a small business owner and have cancer and the clarity it gives you. Like, I really feel like my business has become, I've been very clear on what I want to do, and I have gotten more confident as a baby namer because I don't have time to worry if I'm not doing enough. We all have our like low moments, right? I'm human. I have
I mean, we
anxiety.
wouldn't be human if we didn't, right?
Right. Like, come on. Like, I'm still going to second guess things, right? But
Yeah.
overall, I feel like I've been give it like if I have to put a positive spin on it, which I don't, but I can put it on this
Well,
that
this is
it's
you. You are that's
yeah,
you.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. I'm a bit of an optimist. I'm a dreamer. So it feels like I'm able to kind of focus and really narrow down and like my time is precious and that don't wait for anything. Like if you want to start your podcast again, you want to launch a book,
Mm,
travel the world. Like I'm going to Italy for a friend's wedding coming up in September, and I'm very nervous about being away from my kids for a long time, but I also don't want to live in fear and I don't want to miss out on things because life is really precious and I've learned that, I don't feel like the same person I was before cancer. I feel, there's like a certain amount of sadness that you take with you just because you've had that like the big C word, it's like
yeah.
you don't trust everything. It's hard to trust your body, but you really have clarity of like, oh my gosh, I have this amazing family, these amazing support systems, friends and family, this such a fulfilling business. I love it so much. And like, I hate when I'm taken away from it, recovering from a surgery and I can't do baby names. I can't post videos. I love my community and I love everything about this job that we are so lucky to have because it's so creative and fulfilling.
Mm,
So I feel like it's given me it's that clarity. And, it's just, I think it's a one day at a time thing too, because
yeah.
you never know what's going to happen.
And you've been so open with sharing your
Mm,
journey,
yeah.
which has really invited people to just see your like authentic self
Yeah.
as you are. Like, you've showed up through like some tough times. I don't know if I would have been able to do what you do. I probably would have just fallen off the face of the earth. But
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
know how you're going to
shoot.
handle. Yeah. Wait, where is she? You don't know how you're going to handle these. And I honestly really totally feel you when you say like your community has helped you
Mhm,
like immensely, because like you said, there's life, there's ups and downs, but
mhm.
for me as well, like no matter what, I'll always come, I'm always showing up and I'm always coming back because the community are so
Yes.
amazing. And not just our like actual, our followers, but like the naming community as well. I
Yeah,
feel like we've just got
absolutely.
this beautiful um side of the world and side of the gram, and that we just get to lean in on, and especially when we're facing some pretty tough times, like,
Yeah. I feel
yeah.
really lucky that I've gotten to know you and the other namers. Like I feel like it's a really what a great thing that we have each other too, because it can be isolating when you do content in your house alone and name orders by yourself. So such
It's
a
like
lot of
we've got a team of people now, and
yeah.
we're like, there's room for us all. That's
Yes.
my philosophy
We are
always.
very supportive of each other. Like it's a good group we have. So I'm
Mm.
very grateful for all of yeah, and I love my community. Yeah. I'm so grateful for everybody who messages me and says, your videos on, tissue expanders helped me, or your videos on double mastectomy. And I'm like, thank you. I said,
That you can merge all of like some of this lifestyle stuff in with your names. Like
yeah,
you
I don't know
always,
how that happened.
I don't know how you do it,
No, I don't either.
but you tie it in so beautifully. And although names are always like the forefront of it,
Yes.
I just think you tie in like the parts of your life really well. And I
Mm,
am always inspired by that because I don't do that very well.
mm.
I'm
It is
very,
so
like
fun. I want to know more about your life online.
I've got two sides. I've got my great little
Yeah.
farm community, and then there's me, the mum, and the wife. um, but yeah, I love that you do that, and yeah, you have shown up in a time that was pretty shitty, really,
Right. Yeah.
and you've
Like,
got you're
yeah.
nearly, well, you're not through it, but you're on the other side. I feel like
Right.
you're on the other side.
I have another big surgery coming up, but yeah, I'm on the other side of like supposedly all the cancer's gone and we're just kind of maintenance mode. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So, what would you say to other women going through something similar right now who are perhaps, maybe they're in business too and they've had something similar or had a big life experience? Is there something that you would say to them just to be like, you've got this? Or,
Yeah. Um, I think part of it too, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you feel like you can never take a break from your work,
mm,
know that like your community wants you to rest and take those breaks. And if you don't show up for a week or whatever, a month, that it is okay and they'll still be there.
mm,
So
yeah.
your health is your priority and only do what you can. I feel like I really pared down on my workload so that I could enjoy my life more and I could rest more during treatments when I was going to radiation every day. So you don't have to quit. If something major happens, I guess my advice would be just do as much as you can and know that like your business, it doesn't have to be growing like this every year. If you need to take a year for you and your health and like discovery and classes and interesting things, that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah. And do you think that's been part of your like unexpected joy of this like community, like having this
Mhm.
community support
Yeah,
and them saying, you don't have to show up, like
I know.
we don't expect anything from you,
Yeah,
just look after yourself and then
yeah,
we'll be here
right.
waiting. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
They were so great. I think I was just like, I love oversharing. It's kind of been a thing for me my whole life. I have a
That's why
background
we
in
love you.
theater. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you want to feel? These are hard as rock. Come over and feel. It's like,
Trust me, if I was there right now, I would be taking
okay,
it all out.
exactly. So I've always been that type of person. So it felt really natural. But I did, I've taken time off, and my community definitely nobody was ever like, you know, nobody ever. My posts about breast cancer are so positive. The comments, like,
Mm. I know,
it's
I
not
love
for baby names,
reading
but
them. Yeah.
what?
I love reading the comments
Oh,
on those because
yeah,
I just think it's just so nice to see the support. And yes, you're there for the names, but you know what? You're a person too, and life
yeah, right.
happens.
Life happens. Yeah, we're whole people. So I like to bring all of me. I know you're there for baby names, so I'm going to keep it mostly that, but
Yeah.
I like to share about
You sneak in some other stuff.
yeah.
All your memes, all your memes.
I have so many I share so many memes. Oh my god.
Love it. I
I'm
love
like,
it.
"Yep,
Don't
I
stop.
resonate with that."
Don't
Boom.
follow names with Steph. You need to follow names with Steph, obviously. You should be by now. But yeah. Now, I just wanted to, we're nearly going to wrap things up, but I've
Okay.
got a couple more questions. One is, what are you dreaming up next? I know there's got to be more happening
Mm.
for you, whether you want to share or not. Is there anything you're dreaming up, or have you got something in the pipeline, or are you like, you've got something magical happening, but you don't want to tell us yet? There's surely
I
something you do.
Well, I'm dreaming of YouTube and Patreon. So if that's I'm really
So
focusing
you're on
on
YouTube too. So
yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
jump over and follow
Go
Steph.
on, go watch on YouTube. I am dreaming of long form content as well. I love short form so much, but I'm trying to find other ways. Like I've got I want to share more about the process of naming and not just nameless, and maybe help, name hobbyists. But yeah, my Patreon is going to be really exciting. That is a place where you could find like more personal stuff. It's going to be totally different tiers and perks. And I'm really, really excited about that. So
That sounds very
yeah.
exciting. I know a little bit about Patreon. It's not as big here in Australia, but I
Oh,
know that
okay.
it's big over there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's such a cool thing, having like a little private space where
Yes.
your ultimate fans can be
Yes,
on the ride with
exactly.
you.
You get exclusive content and community, and it's just
Mm,
for the people in there. And so you're going to get very different stuff than
yeah.
is on your free public social
Yeah.
medias. So
And
yeah,
that's
it
it.
is
We've got like
fun.
the free stuff on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. That's like, the surface level stuff. And then you can
Yeah,
go a little deeper, which is
yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited
Well,
for
that
that.
sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Now, before we officially wrap things up, I've got some wildflower quick questions for you.
Woo, let's do
Are
it.
you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can answer these quickly. Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink. Got it.
What name are you loving right now?
Eloin.
Oh, do you know
Eloin.
she's popped up so much for me lately? Like
Really?
in name client, like nameless. Yes.
Yes, I
Wait, how would you spell it?
so
There's a couple of
I
options here.
there's a couple options. I spell it without the without the W, like Elowen,
Okay,
but
yep.
the one with the Y is ranking. So
I
people
feel like personally I lean into the Y.
okay, and it
I
does add a
do.
little feminine tone to it. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does. Yeah,
yeah.
it
I love
does.
that. Al,
Yeah.
well, I love the name
So
Al,
yeah,
Winnie. I just feel like, yeah, I'm with
I'm
you on
like
that. I love that.
it's Cornish for like elm tree. It's so beautiful nature name, but it's got the vowel name.
I feel
It's
like
got
it's
the
got your whimsy.
accent. What?
It's whimsy. It's got your whimsy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's one of my favorites right now. And if I'm currently in the middle of a baby name skit, and that was on like my characters list.
Ooh,
So
okay, keep it on there. Keep it on there. That's a
yeah.
sign.
Hmm.
Okay, next question. What name trend are you just loving right now?
I'm loving the alternative feminine names. I love when people want a girl name that is just not ending in an A perhaps, which okay, my daughter's name is a very feminine name, ends in an A. So don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with that. As we both have daughters that end in A. But there's like people who love these kind of call them alternative feminine, but they're just like they're different, but they're still girly, right? Like Margot
Mm.
and Blythe and even
Imogen?
Jack, Imogen, perfect choice,
Yes.
perfect option. Yes,
Yes.
perfect.
It's interesting you
One of
say
my
that,
favorites.
the vowel ending, because the top 100 Australian girl names, there was
Yeah.
70 names out of the 100 ending in a vowel.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
so interesting.
I
That
know.
is
So they're obviously, very loved, but I love these other style of names that are trending too.
yeah.
Um, like the ones that you were saying.
And
Names
for
to
like,
what?
and I want to say some boy uptrend for boys that I'm liking too,
Oh
because I
yes,
feel
tell us
like
the boy. Yeah, yeah.
um
We can't
like
forget the boys because everyone struggles
right.
with boy names.
Yeah, I know, because everyone struggles. Surnames. I love a surname for boys. They're so good. Anything if it ends in,
They're
Ford
strong.
or
They're so
yeah,
strong.
they're
Yeah.
just yes, and they just feel right. I don't know.
Solid.
And like
They're like grounded, solid,
yes,
strong. Yeah, I like that. That is definitely a trend.
yeah.
Whenever I share surname names,
People are
they
obsessed, right?
they love
Okay.
them. They love them. And
So
now because it's like on my mind as well, every name is possible. Every surname, I'm like,
literally, if you see
ooh,
someone's surname, you're like, let me write that down. I know, for real. List after list. I'm like, these are so good. Everything works. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. The next question is, if you had a fourth baby tomorrow, what would their name be, boy and girl? Tell me, is it Aloe?
It's not.
Okay.
Actually, Imogen is on my magical fourth baby that I'm not having. Imogen or Desdemona for a girl, so they'd be Desi and or Emmy, because like Ori and Desi, Ori and Emmy, those are amazing.
I
So
also
the
love Mimi for like
which one?
Mimi. Like
Mimi.
Imogen, but Mimi.
Oh,
Mimi.
that's cute.
I
I
know.
normally think of Jen or Emmy, but Mimi, that's really cute. I also like that. Ori and
That's
Emmy.
kind of whimsy. That's kind of you.
That's so good. I'm gonna keep that. That's good for my fourth baby.
That's probably not happening. But anyway, I do the same thing, so don't worry.
Definitely not. Yeah, because people will ask. I've done videos on it. I'm like, you guys are weird, but I love it also. Please keep asking, you know?
Don't worry, I've named twins, I've got triplets.
Yeah, exactly. And boys, I really want I struggle. I wanted a G name because my boys are Ewan and Fitz EFG.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
That was my big thing. So I'm kind of currently loving Griggs, but I don't know if I would actually use it.
I like Griggs. I actually
Yes,
really like it for
you?
you.
You?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I
It's
had a
got
thought you were
mixed
going to say
reviews.
Grayson, and I was like,
Oh, mhm.
yeah, but Griggs, I like it. Oh, well, for the imaginary fourth child, we've just
It
named you.
works. Yeah, exactly. It works for imaginary children really well.
Next question is a celeb baby name that you just love.
Um, I I have to say Francesca.
I knew you were going to say this. I was writing this question out and I was
You're
like, I
like,
know
she's
what
gonna
she's
say
going to
it.
say, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
You could have just said it for me. Yeah, lock it in poetry. I mean, come on, those are fantastic, whimsical names.
They're like the names of like the decade.
I mean, I hope so. Good for them, right? And
Good
then
for them.
but I also say Kale Lowry, her twins have great names too. Verse and Valley. Like, I don't know why. I just love twin names. I had a whole list. I usually do at the end of the year celeb names that I love. And I know, gosh, there was a couple more. I do love like Hillary Duff's kids' names. Is it Banks and Towns or something?
Yes, Banks, Towns, and what's the other? There's
Yeah.
I can't think of the other name.
So I throw those in there because I love those as well. So, but yeah, I'm obsessed. If with a whimsical word name, I'm obsessed. It's a
Yeah,
trip.
no, I'm equally obsessed.
Good, good. Yes, good.
Okay, your naming style in 3 words.
Oh,
You can probably guess it, but you
yeah.
tell us.
Yeah, I mean, have I said it enough? Whimsical, authentic, and unique.
Love
Is that
it.
good? Yeah.
That's so good. You're off the hook. They're my wildfire quick questions for you.
Sounds good.
So there's our podcast done. Thank you so much
It was
for
so fun.
joining us. I'm so excited for everyone to listen. And if you are, if you're not following Steph, please go and follow her at Names with Steph. You can find her TikTok, YouTube,
All the places.
Instagram, all of the places. And yeah, you'll be able to look at this podcast episode on YouTube as well as on where all podcasts, great podcasts are listened. So if you have anything exciting to say about this episode, you can comment below or you can share it on your platform and tag us, and we'll be so excited. So thank you, Steph. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.